Hey, it's John Foss talking with Joe Mantegna. We're talking about the new show. As we see it, 8 episodes will be airing on Amazon Prime. Joe, tell us about the show.
Well, for me, it's just when I first read the pilot script, I said to myself, "This is one of the finest things I've read in my 50-plus career." And I wanted to meet with the writer, even if it worked out that I would wound up not doing the series. But I met with him. I told him that. I says, Jason Katims, who created the series, I said, Jason, I don't know if it will work out that I wind up doing your show, but this is one of the finest things I've ever read in show business. And just, and hats off to you, especially being the parent of a child with autism as I am. As it turned out, I did do the show. I'm so proud of all 8 episodes that we shot, and I just feel just honored and blessed and grateful to be a part of it.
Tell us a little bit more about how the show approaches the subject of autism.
Well, it's like a day in the life, a year in the life, a life in the life of these 3 young adults who are all on the autism spectrum, and the 3 actors are on the autism spectrum. So it's not like we're not doing pretend here. And yet, what's wonderful about it is it shows every aspect of still a drama. I mean, it's a scripted show. It's not like a documentary. We're actually, they're telling stories here, but it's done so beautifully and so brilliantly, and it's as funny as it is serious. There are these shocking moments, and there's hilarious moments, as it is in life. And I can relate to that because I've lived it for certainly the last 35 years with my oldest daughter. So it's just it's that whole deal, and it doesn't come around all that often. Those kinds of stories and that kind of talent that comes together to put something like this together. So again, I've been around a long time. That's how I feel about it. We'll see how it resonates with the world, but I have a good feeling that people are going to take to this because it's just done so well.
You mentioned that you're the father of an autistic daughter. For people out there who may be parents of autistic children or may have autism themselves, how do you think they'll relate to the show? Do you think they're going to see a lot of things that they may have experienced in their life?
I think very much so. I think they'll feel the same way I do. I mean, for me, it was even like initially when I remember even on the first day of work thinking to myself, wow, this is going to be a kind of a different experience for me, because usually what I do for a living it's very separate from my life. So in other words, that's how in a way, I step out and go into this fantasy pretend world that I do, where I play all these different characters, wherever it may be over my career. Here, I'm stepping into a world that's very similar to the world that I live in my life, personal life anyway. So I think people whether they have children or relatives or friends or whatever who are on the autism spectrum, they'll be able to relate to it perfectly and understand how truthful it is and how honest it is. Well, as the title of the show is, as we see it, and that's in terms of from both sides of the street, and how it's just part of our life, and it's not going away, and it's going to be, it's just as a perfect example of what it's like to have that experience, whether it's your child or a friend or relative or whatever it may be.
And there's 8 episodes in the first season of the show. Is this a show that you think will be going on for multiple seasons, or does the 8 episodes tell the story and then it's done? What's the future of the show?
Oh, I think, well, God willing, I think there's the opportunities there to continue, and the way I see it, as I see it, my feeling is I see no real reason why it shouldn't continue, because there's a myriad of stories to tell and things, and I think if people gravitate to it and like it as much as I think they will, I think they'll actually demand to see more of this and want to see more of it, because it really is. Look, I was on a TV show, Criminal Minds, for 13 out of 15 years. And that show had a huge impact, and people who really enjoyed it. I can see people in a whole different way embracing this show in a similar way as must see. You want to call it must see TV or whatever you want to call it. I really feel it has that potential.
You mentioned Criminal Minds, and you were the star of that show for 15 years. What's it like now that that show is done? Do you miss the show? Do you feel happy that it's done and just having the opportunity to move on? What are your thoughts right now moving on from that show?
Well, I've been in this business over 50 years now. So, I mean, I always known it's a transitional kind of life. And, I just feel blessed I was able to do something for 13 years. outside of playing Fat Tony on The Simpsons, which I've been doing over 30 years. That's my longest running character. But I'm also used to doing shows where I've gone in and shot a character in one day, and then that's all that person existed was in that one day, that character. So that's just the life of an actor. But I feel very lucky to have that opportunity. You know, I know a lot of people, if they put together a wish list of what they want to do for a living, I know being a successful, actor would probably be on the top of a lot of lists. So I feel very blessed to have had the opportunity to do that. So you take the long runs with the short runs and everything in between. It's all good. I love doing Criminal Minds. We're all still very close friends, and I hope I get that same opportunity with As We See It.
As a kid, I first saw you on SNL as a host, and you've done so many even more amazing things since then to just put together such a great career that you put together. Congratulations on that. Going back, though, in time, you were in Godfather 3, and my question for you is, as a Godfather fan, which Godfather is your favorite?
Wow, that's a good question. I think that, you know what I mean? I think as a trilogy, they really hold up. I mean, because they're all so different. And I think 3 was unique in the sense there was like this 18-year gap, I think, after 2 to 3. And I think it's kind of found its own in ways. I think a lot of people initially were like, wow, it's been a long time. And, does this fit in? But I think especially with the younger generations, I talk to people who are, like in their 20s and 30s, they'll watch all 3 and they'll like them all almost equally. And I think, well, that's interesting. Because and I can understand why it would be different to somebody who, saw those first 2 when they were young, and then 20 years later got reintroduced to it. So I just think it just depends on the viewer how they take to it. But I'm just proud to be part of that trilogy.
And The Godfather may be the best trilogy of all time. Well, Joe Mantegna, thank you so much for being with us. Twin Cities, make sure you check out his new show. It's called As We See It. 8 new episodes will be on Amazon Prime. Check it out. Thanks, Joe.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.